Imagine a world where no one dies, no sickness, no aging, no death, just life stretching on forever. It's a concept that has captivated humanity for millennia. I mean, who wouldn't want to explore the universe for all eternity, right? From ancient Egyptian pharaohs seeking eternal life to medieval alchemists trying to conjure the elixir of immortality, we've always been obsessed with cheating death. Now, in the 21st century, with advancements in genetics, nanotechnology and artificial intelligence, the dream of immortality seems closer than ever. But is it a future we should even be striving for? What if humans became immortal? Okay, let's dive into the science fiction of it all for a second. Let's say, just for fun, that science finally cracks the code of aging. Maybe we discover a gene that can be manipulated to halt the aging process altogether. Or perhaps we create microscopic machines, nanobots that course through our bodies, repairing damage at the cellular level, keeping us young and healthy indefinitely. Heck, maybe we even figure out how to download our consciousness into a computer simulation, leaving our physical bodies behind to exist as digital beings in a virtual paradise. Think about it, no more wrinkles, no more grey hairs, no more aching joints. You could eat all the pizza you want without worrying about cholesterol. You could spend centuries mastering every skill imaginable, becoming a virtuoso pianist, a world-renowned astrophysicist, a master chef, all in one lifetime that never ends. It's a tantalizing prospect, isn't it? The allure of immortality is deeply ingrained in our psyche. But before we start popping champagne and celebrating our newfound eternity, we need to ask ourselves some serious questions. Because the truth is, immortality wouldn't just be about extending life. It would fundamentally change what it means to be human, and not necessarily for the better. Here's the first elephant in the room: overpopulation. Planet Earth, as big and beautiful as it is, has its limits. It can only support so many people with the resources we have. Now, imagine if no one ever died, but we kept having babies. The math just doesn't work. We're already pushing the limits of our planet's carrying capacity. With immortality, we'd be looking at an unprecedented population explosion. Food shortages would become the norm. Water would become more precious than gold. And the fight for resources could lead to global conflicts on a scale we can hardly imagine. Governments might be forced to implement extreme measures to control population growth. We could see mandatory birth limits, or even a complete ban on having children. Imagine a world where the miracle of birth is replaced by the cold, hard reality of population control, all in the name of preserving our immortal existence. And what about the planet itself? The strain on our ecosystems would be immense. Deforestation, pollution, climate change, all of these problems would be amplified exponentially as our immortal population continues to grow. We'd be condemning our planet to a slow, agonizing death, even as we cling to our own eternal lives. Chapter 3. The Immortality Divide. Let's be honest, folks. In a world obsessed with wealth and status, do you really think immortality would be available to everyone? Not a chance. The first to benefit from this scientific breakthrough would undoubtedly be the wealthy and powerful. The same billionaires who fund space travel, the same politicians who make the rules, they'd be the first in line for eternal life. Imagine a world where the same elite, the same families hold on to power for centuries, their influence solidifying into an iron grip on society. The rest of us, we'd be left scrambling for scraps, hoping for a chance to join the Immortal Club, a club with an entry fee most of us could never afford. This disparity wouldn't just exacerbate existing inequalities. It would create a chasm so vast, so insurmountable, that it would shatter the very fabric of society. We'd be living in a world divided not just by wealth or status, but by time itself. The immortals, forever young and powerful, lording over the mortals, destined to age and die as they always have. Does that sound like a future we want to live in? Chapter 4. The Burden of Eternity. All right, let's say we somehow manage to solve the overpopulation crisis and make immortality accessible to everyone. Problem solved, right? Well, not quite. Because even if we conquer death, there's still one opponent we can't defeat: time. Imagine living for centuries, for millennia, watching as everyone you love grows old and dies around you. Your children, your grandchildren, your great-great-great-grandchildren, all succumbing to the relentless march of time while you remain eternally young. The human mind wasn't designed to process that kind of loss, that kind of grief repeated over and over again for eternity. The psychological toll would be immeasurable. We'd be haunted by the ghosts of loved ones past, forever yearning for connections we can never truly recapture. And what about the boredom, the monotony? Sure, the first few centuries might be a blast. You could travel the world, learn new languages, master every hobby under the sun. But what happens after 1,000 years, 10,000, a million? Even the most exciting experiences would eventually lose their luster. The world would become a predictable, repetitive cycle, and we'd be trapped in it forever. Chapter 5. A life without end or meaning. See, here's the thing about life. It's precious because it's finite. It's the knowledge that our time is limited that gives our actions meaning, that drives us to love, to learn, to leave our mark on the world. If we take away that limit, if we remove the possibility of failure, of loss, of death, do we also take away what makes life worth living? Imagine a world where you have all the time in the world to accomplish your dreams. You could write that novel. Eventually, you could travel to that exotic island. Someday, there's no rush, no urgency, because, hey, you're immortal. But without that sense of urgency, would we ever find the motivation to actually pursue our passions? Or would we simply drift through eternity, our lives becoming a pale imitation of the vibrant, fleeting existence we were meant to live? It's a question that philosophers have grappled with for centuries, and it's a question that each of us would have to answer for ourselves, in a world where death is no longer a certainty, but a choice. Outro, the choice is yours. So there you have it, the mind-blowing possibilities and the terrifying consequences of a world where humans become immortal. It's a future brimming with scientific marvels, but also fraught with ethical dilemmas and existential challenges we can barely comprehend. Would you choose to live forever, knowing the potential costs? Or would you embrace the natural order of life and death, cherishing the precious time you have? It's a question with no easy answers.